Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me yet again. For today's week, I will be using another hooded nib fountain pen that this time is coming from HongDian, the HongDian 321. It's not as cheap as the Hero 329 Plus that I used last week, but it's still in the area of being affordable. The fountain pen is actually not that bad either. As most of the fountain pens coming from HongDian, it is fairly well built, and this one in particular, it's an all-metal construction, I assume brass. Everything seems to be quite well put on the pen, with the exception of that clip that once I noticed it, it triggered me since then. The clip is slightly tilted to the left, so it's not perfectly aligned now on the center of the cap. With that only thing aside, the fountain pen, like I mentioned, is actually very well built. I do like how it's put together. The balance on it, it's very good as well. Posted on unposted. Actually, unposted, it's a little bit nib heavy, which I actually prefer in a fountain pen. And when posted, the balance becomes more neutral. So overall, decent pen, at least from a build quality. They do come in a few different other colors. Personally, I choose this green pastel because I do like green as a color, and at the same time, I thought it would be probably a good match with the other green ink that I have from HongDian, and I said, why not? Let's try it out. Speaking of the ink, like I just said, I'll be using the HongDian Teal ink, which is actually maybe a little bit darker than an actual teal, but still pretty close. No issues while I was filling it up. The converter works without a problem. The one issue that I did had was with the fountain pen having a hard start even after I just filled it up. So there is a chance that maybe there's a little bit of a baby's bottom on the nib, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't put it under the microscope or under the magnifying glass to see what's wrong with it, because once he starts writing, actually he writes very good and fairly wet for the nib that he has. So as a writer, it's actually quite pleasant, as long as you don't write very fast or you try and do lines with it, moving your hand very fast. Once I started moving my hand fairly fast, the pen had a hard time keeping up with my hand and leaving a nice consistent line on the page. There were a lot of skips, complete misses on some lines, and as such, I didn't like it that much. I don't know if it's the nib like I mentioned, probably it is the nib. It can be replaced, but I'm okay with it as is for now. I'll give it a try some other time with a different ink, maybe it will perform in a different way. Right now, this is the ink that I'm using, and that's the issues that I had. I do like to use this fountain pen posted, not because of the balance, but because of the fact that it is a little bit maybe on the tiny side for my hand when it is unposted. Once I posted it, everything worked out pretty good. Actually, the length, it's quite nice, and it can accommodate a lot of hand types. And unlike other HongDian models, this one posts very well, very secure, and the cap is not tilted, sits perfectly nice on the barrel. With the writing aside, when I dove into the drawing side of things, the fountain pen performed actually pretty good at the beginning. It ended up having the same issues as all the other fountain pens that I'd be having on this paper, and after a while the nib gets too dry that I actually have to start pushing the piston down and force more ink into the feed in order to get a better flow. But like I mentioned on the other fountain pens, I blame that on the paper, not the fountain pen. For the drawing today, I started without any real ideas in my head, just again trying to get something drawn from imagination and letting the mind wander. The only thing that I forced myself into is to draw a circle on the page, which actually that turned to haunt me maybe a little bit later on, because I realized that I didn't know what to do with that circle. So I think I need to train my mind more to just let it drift and don't try and take control in any way, shape or form until at least you start seeing some shapes. If I start with an idea on the page, I guess I should have the whole idea and not just a circle. I mean, it kind of evolved in an interesting creature. I do like how the eyes turned out on this thing. The body wasn't that bad as well. The only thing that seems out of place, at least in my head now that I look at it after I'm done with it, is the central part. That thing that started as a circle and I wasn't sure exactly where to go with it after it was there on the page. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing about working with ink and fountain pens. Once it's on the page, it's kind of hard to mask it away or take it away from the page. Which I guess in a way could be also a good thing, because it's forcing you to live with your mistakes and actually learn from your mistakes right away. And hopefully next time around you get to do a different approach. The thing that I like the most about the creature are the eyes. I liked how I end up doing the entire structure of the eye, or at least where the eye will sit in. And I wish now in hindsight that I would have continued with that structure throughout the entire body of the creature. So I think if I would have left my mind wander from the beginning and let it just start with those, I guess, structures that eventually became the eye, and then go into the body of the creature, would probably give me a much nicer result. The other mistake that I think I did with this drawing is that I committed too soon or too fast with very, very dark areas, and that again came back and beat me a little bit, because I wasn't sure how to bring balance between the light and the dark areas anymore, since I kind of ruined a little bit that 3D effect and that ball that originally I kind of started with. Nevertheless, that did not discourage me, and I kept at it, trying to sort of find ways to incorporate it better with the other two parts of this creature, the eyes and the body. It's another floating creature, very simple actually in its ways, I guess. At least the body is very simple. It just has like two sort of half lumps in there that are sort of connected, I guess, to the ball that most probably turn out to contain the mouth and the nostrils. Funny thing, now at the end, after I'm done with the drawing and I'm looking at this round ball that it's in the center of the page, reminds me a lot of Baloo from Jungle Book. Especially the part when he decides to actually dress up as a monkey. So basically Baloo ends up having the two coconut halves, or actually quarter coconut halves, stuck to its mouth in order to pass like a monkey. That's what reminds me this part. So maybe not a total failure, since kind of brings a little bit of memories. In essence though, the drawing was fairly simple, not complicated, but it did took a long time to actually complete. Almost 3 hours, if not 3 hours and a little bit of time spent on this piece, and mostly just doing the shading and trying to merge the body parts into each other. And the more I think about it, especially when I was working on the eye part, the more made me regret that I jumped to the circle part, and I should have been more patient, so I can first draw the top part and then continue with the same pattern and structure that I built for the eyes, which I like the most from this drawing. The fountain pen performed very well for the most part. But then again, like I mentioned, I cannot actually blame it on the pen, since the starving issues are usually mostly created by the paper that I'm using, which, by the way, I know I sound like I'm complaining a lot about it. Truth is still one of my favorite paper to use at this point in time, at least. And the green color, I think, worked out very well with the paper. Surprisingly, I was able to layer it quite a lot, mostly thanks for the fact that the nib was running pretty dry on this page. Regardless, I was able to build up quite a lot of layers on top of the ink without actually going through the page. At one point in time, I was afraid that I actually made the paper too wet, and I looked on the other side and it was still fine, not even bleed. It didn't even bleed through, which was surprisingly pleasant. So in the end, another interesting creature that my mind spit out. I wish I would have trusted my mind from the beginning and not try and take control over what I was trying to draw. I do love the eyes, how they turn out in the end, and I wish I would have continued that structure throughout. That was the mistake that I learned from today. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit better and a little bit more coherent than the one that I did today, with better shaded parts. The fountain pen, like I mentioned, it worked as it should have. No issues from that regard other than the normal thing that goes with this paper. Yeah, I really enjoyed the drawing for today. And the pen. It's not a bad pen, especially if you like hooded nibs. Personally, I would probably still recommend the Hero 329 from last week over this fountain pen. But then again, I could be a little bit biased, since I do like the Hero fountain pens and their hooded nibs, especially, well, since they are copying the original Parker design. Oh, and I just remember, last week I was saying I might tell the story of why I closed my account with AliExpress. So the problem is not the sellers. Honestly, I never really had any issues with the sellers. And when there were actual problems with the items that I received, 90% of the time the sellers were very nice, and they always tried and find a solution to help me fix it. However, my issue was with actual AliExpress customer service and their, delivery guaranteed issues. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they decided to use a courier that is here in Canada that it's literally one of the worst couriers out there, at least from Canada. And I'm not really, into shaming people or businesses about things and mentioning names, but I feel like it's kind of my duty to mention these guys' name. So the courier that they're using here in Canada to deliver some of their packages is Apple Express, which on Yelp, for example, they have 1.2 review stars out of 5. And that's like 232 people that voted for this. Basically, the problem with them is that it's not just how they deliver the packages, on how much care they show in how they deliver the packages. The problem is with them that packages magically disappear when they come to Canada. And I had actual packages that were never delivered with them. And even worse, and I'll show some pictures in here, or at least one picture to show you, packages were intentionally ripped off, the contents from them stolen, and they literally delivered empty envelopes. And when I went to AliExpress and complain about this, like, hey, the courier that you guys are choosing to deliver my packages through delivers empty packages, they just didn't care. They literally said, hey, the package was delivered. If items are missing, go figure out with your, courier. Which, by the way, I tried to reach out to them and make complaints. None of them reply back, no through emails or phone calls or anything. They just ignore it. And this is a troubling issue with this courier, and I was extremely frustrated to the point that, like I said, I end up closing AliExpress account because I lost over 200 Canadian dollars in packages that either were not delivered or contents were stolen, and AliExpress did not basically uphold their end of the deal. It's like, hey, we recognize you didn't receive the package. We apologize for that. I mean, what courier delivers empty packages? I know there's usually like a process that when a package is open and it comes into their hands, they mark it as such, or they have ways to put it in, I believe, like in their own sealed envelope with markings in there saying, hey, this is how we received this package and whatever. And unfortunately, since I'm the receiver, I cannot get in touch with them to figure out what's going on. It's the seller that has to start the investigation, which AliExpress, again, they never even been interested in doing that. So I'm done working with AliExpress and I'm just looking for different venues, which is unfortunate though, because AliExpress has a lot of interesting fountain pens that I like, but at the same time, my wallet will probably be happy about that. Anyway, that was my rant with AliExpress and their stupid Apple Express courier, and I apologize for the colorful language, but as you probably can tell by now, I'm really frustrated with that. And unfortunately, I wasn't thinking clearly either, because what I should have done before closing my account was to actually go and do a complaint with PayPal and get my money that way. But unfortunately, short fuse and too annoyed with the whole thing, and I just my mind was blurred. Anyway, I'm done with that chapter. I don't think I'll ever gonna open an account with them anytime soon. And that was the story, basically. Sorry, I kind of kept it for the ending there. I don't know if anybody was interested, and I was thinking that if by any chance anybody watches until the end, they can hear the drama as well from me. Anyway, to bring things back to reality and to what I'm actually doing in here, I like the drawing that I did today. It was kind of fun. I like the fountain pen. I think I could probably replace or maybe repair that nib to not be as dry and not have the issue with the startup. But other than that, pretty great little thing to have fun with. Thank you very much again for joining me today. Hopefully, I'll see you next week. And as usual, I wish you nothing but a wonderful day or night, whatever you are. Take care. Bye.